Our speaker is Lori Hostuttler, who is the director of the West Virginia and Regional History Center at WVU. So we're excited to have her here today to talk about the center and their collections. So I will hand it over to her and we'll get started.
Thank you, Kate. I'm going to share my screen with everyone. Thank you all so much for having me this evening. I'm really excited to talk to you about our genealogy resources at the West Virginia and Regional History Center. As Kate said, I'm Lori Hostuttler. I'm the director of the History Center. I just came into that position in May of 2023. But I've worked at the History Center for 20 years. I started off on a grant-funded processing position, then was the photographs manager. I've worked on digital projects. I was working on outreach, and was the assistant director for 6 years before becoming the director. I love working here. We have a wonderful collection and a wonderful staff, and I'm excited to share some of that with you. I did just want to give an overview of the West Virginia and Regional History Center in general before I talk about the genealogy materials. Our mission is very straightforward: to preserve and provide access to materials that tell the story of West Virginians and people in the Central Appalachian region. And when we say Central Appalachian region, that means West Virginia and then sort of the areas of the states that we border and those places where we share culture or industry or geography. We're not really following the ARC's definition of Central Appalachia. But you'll see in our collections that we have materials from Eastern Ohio, Western Maryland, Southwestern PA, so covering that region. We also collect some materials that go beyond West Virginia. We have a wonderful rare book collection that's international in scope that contains the first folios from Shakespeare and lots of first editions of American and British literature classics. Those are outside of the scope of this presentation, but I think it's always nice to mention that we do have this fantastic collection that is available to the public to research. And just a little bit more about the History Center, just to talk about the things that we do. You know, we collect broadly about West Virginia, all aspects, many different kinds of formats. And we like to think of it as like two spheres that we're working in. We have staff that are here working behind the scenes that are doing the preservation, processing, description, and arrangement of our archival collections, and who are also doing digitization and creating metadata and description of digital objects. And so we have a whole set of people that are working behind the scenes to make materials available to you. Then we have another group of employees that work really on the more public side, helping researchers like you navigate our collections, navigate our indices and finding aids and things like that. Folks that create exhibitions, people who teach classes primarily for students at WVU, but also beyond WVU, including some K-12 classes from the state. So these images that you see on this slide get a little bit of a view of our reading room and an exhibit in process, as well as some students who are doing a scavenger hunt for a class. We are a very busy research center, serving patrons from the state, but also from well beyond. And many of those patrons from well beyond are doing genealogy research and tracing their ancestors that maybe lived here and then moved on further west, or stayed here for their whole lives. We're really proud to document and preserve the history of our state, and we're excited about the opportunities to share those resources with others. I wanted to just get started by saying that the key to finding out about our institution is through our website. Most everything like that I'm going to say tonight, you can trace back to our webpage. There's a lot of pages, a lot of information on there, and this is really where you need to start if you're going to come or if you're going to use our resources, whether in person or remotely. So we've got our web address up there, and I just wanted to just emphasize too that I'm going to focus on some specific like genealogy resources, but I would say that practically every part of our collection could be helpful in genealogy research. And we do have a very large collection. We have nearly 5,000 different manuscript collections, probably over 100,000 photographs. We have 50,000 available online, but many, many more that are still in archival collections. And the list goes on, but we have lots of resources to share to you, and just getting to our website is the first place to start. The handout that was attached on the registration page is basically just a very simple brochure that has our contact information that will get you to some of these same links that I'm going to share in this presentation. So I hope that you will check out the website and reach out to us. So the first resource and kinds of resources that I wanted to talk about this evening are our archives and manuscripts collection. That is the biggest part of our collection here. We have a 10-story building, and we have archival collections filling up all 10 stories. We also have a depository location where we have humongous political collections as well. This is the biggest part of our collection. We have a great number of family papers, and I'm going to stick with the PowerPoint right now, but at the end of this, if I have time, I may navigate around the website. I did a search earlier, pulled up like 500 collections that had the word family in the title of the collection. So there's a whole variety of those. And because West Virginia, obviously, we became a state in 1863, we were part of Virginia prior to that date. We have collections and materials that date further back than that 1863 date. Some things from the pre-statehood era are held in Virginia institutions, but a lot of it is here too. So when you're on our webpage, that main page that was on my previous slide, you see the search screen there, and it defaults to archives and manuscripts. That is because it's the largest collection that we have. You can search right there for your family, your surname, and see what comes up. From there, when you get that list, you'll get finding aids. So the collection inventories and descriptions that tell you what we have. And I have a sample of what those look like up on my screen right now. So that's the family papers, but also we have specific genealogy collections. And the one that I have on the screen right now is the Willis Guide Tetrick collection. And Mr. Tetrick corresponded and kept forms for many, many surnames and compiled that into binders. And we have 274 binders that are alphabetical, where he put all of this information together. His collection is focused primarily on north central West Virginia versus the southern part of the state. But we have collections that run the whole breadth of the state. I won't say that it's equal, just because our collecting over the years has been more passive. Only in more recent years have we been able to go after things. So we don't have equal geographic distribution, but we have stuff from all over the state. And this is a fantastic collection. I found out things about my own family from looking at some of his surname sheets. It's just one of a number of these kinds of genealogist collections that we have here. And then I just, wanted to re-emphasize that I feel that pretty much any of our collections could be valuable for genealogy information. I've noted just a couple here that came to mind, like the Helvetia collection. So Helvetia is a Swiss settlement that's in the mountains of West Virginia, and there's a variety of different materials that, especially the photographs collections, that are really rich there, that show the traditions of that Swiss community. And it's still a small community today that people like to visit. They're getting ready to do their Fosnacht celebration coming up in February. But that collection, those collections and materials, while not like expressly genealogy, would obviously be a wonderful resource if you had Swiss ancestors that came through West Virginia. The Storer College collection is a collection of records from the first institution of higher education for Black people in West Virginia. It started off as a school for teaching reading and writing to freed enslaved people, but developed into a four-year college and existed until 1955. And so it has lots of materials about the Black community in the state. Storer College is located in Harpers Ferry in the Eastern Panhandle part of West Virginia. So just a few comments. I mean, other types of manuscript collections that would come up that I think would be potential genealogy sources might be business records, such as like coal company records or union records. We do have a variety of different business collections as well. And each collection should have a finding aid available through that search that's available on our main page. And some important things to note when you look at those records for the collections is look at the extent or how big the collection is. A collection can be a single item or it could be thousands of boxes. Our documentation for each collection, it varies. Some collections, like the Tetrick collection here, you can see has series broken down and has a fairly detailed description in the finding aid to help you get to things. Other collections maybe don't have as good of a description online. You might have something that says it's 20 boxes, but there's no list online. That's always good to talk to us about that, because we're sort of in the middle of getting our older paper finding aids online. And so a lot of cases there's contents lists or inventories that haven't made it online yet, but they are still available in paper form, and our staff will scan them and send them to you so that you have the ability to, before you would come, or just so that you can see better what the contents of a collection is. I'll say it now, and I say this often when we host groups here at the History Center, is ask us questions. We have staff that's their job is to help you, and that's what they want to do. And as a former person that was kind of afraid to ask questions, I realize now what I missed out on by not taking advantage of the expertise of the librarians and other people that could have helped me with some of my research. So please ask if there's anything that doesn't make sense or you have questions about. But particularly when you're looking at the finding aids, if it's lacking detail, it's good to check with us to see, do we have something that can further give you more information about the collection. The next kind of resource that I wanted to talk about are books and serials. We do have a significant book collection here of West Virginia books, and it covers all aspects of West Virginia history. And there's a section in the 929, the picture that I have up there, a whole section of family history books. Again, those cover families in the region, so Southwestern PA, Western Maryland, etc. Very good collection of published family histories. We also have a significant collection of county histories that can be extremely helpful as well, trying to trace down a person or what was happening in a specific community. We have city directories. Some of those are available through ancestry.com. We have a phone book collection as well, and occasionally those do get used and can maybe be helpful. There's a variety of books that compile vital statistics records, death records, or obituaries or birth records. We don't have much vital statistics in our collection as far as the original resources, but we do have these compilations. We have a significant newspaper collection, and I included this here because it's our newspapers. We have some online, but the majority are still here in the History Center and available on microfilm. They're organized by the city where they're published. There is no index to most of them, so you really need to know a date range to try to find what you're looking for. But Kate asked me earlier, what is our most used collection? And the newspapers collection is our most used resource. A few years back, we had an oil and gas boom here in the state, and we had folks who were researching land records and property heirs, and our microfilm room was jam-packed. We also do have some newspapers that are still in original form that we also collect. So that's something that you can see here. And then I'll talk a little bit more about newspapers online in just a minute. I also just wanted to mention that we do collect letters and journals for family societies and historical societies, and those might be helpful resources. You can search our book collections. They're on that main Search History Center's webpage. It defaults to archives and manuscripts, but if you click the down arrow, it will open up and allow you to choose from some other options, and so you can select books from that option, and then you'll just be searching the West Virginia Regional History Center's collection. I think I failed to say at the beginning that we are part of the WVU libraries, and we share our catalog and space and our every staff and everything with the main campus library for WVU. So our library catalog has a lot in it, and it's much easier to search just for our books by using that search from our page, because it's already set to be limited to just the West Virginia and Regional History Center books. I will give a heads up on that. The catalog that we use, because our books are non-circulating, that means they can't be checked out. They have to be used here. Rather than describing that as non-circulating, our catalog lists that as not available. They are available. They just have to be used here on site. They just don't circulate. The good news is that some of them do have a second copy out in the circulating collection that could be requested through interlibrary loan. So if you search for a book and you see that there's another copy, you can always put in an interlibrary loan request through your local library and see if it could be borrowed from our circulating collection. It's not one-to-one that every book in our collection has a second copy out in the circulating collection, but a decent percentage of them do. Let me move on from books and serials and talk about all the other kinds of resources that we have available here. We do have a county court records collection. It's on microfilm, like the newspapers. We have the originals of them too, but we generally steer people to the microfilm first. There's a web page for court records, and it will tell you what counties we have them for. We don't have them for every county. We became an institution that could accept state records early on in our existence. And so we do have these court records from various counties, and many of them are very early 18th and 19th century. They aren't vital statistics or anything like that, but they are generally court cases that are filed by envelope. And so we have indices for some of them, but not for all, that can help you navigate. And these county court records can be really interesting. Sometimes you find something really juicy. A lot of times these court cases are people suing each other over money. That can be helpful to know. Sometimes it's seeking payment for work done. Sometimes it's kind of benign, but they can be really interesting just to get a snapshot of what your ancestor was doing in the area. Some of those were digitized by the Latter-day Saints, I think, in the 1950s, and may be available through FamilySearch.org, but I don't believe that the indexes are available on FamilySearch. But that is something that our staff here can definitely help you with. Even using the indexes can be a little bit tough sometimes. There's a series of books by Ken Kraft that has an amazing compilation of information and as the index for the Ohio County and the Brooke County court records. And so those are great resources. They're a little bit hard to decipher when you first use them, but once you understand, there's a lot of information that you don't need in there, and once you get to the right numbers that you do need, they're very helpful books by Ken Craft. So moving on from county court records, we also have a collection of oral histories. Right now, those aren't available online. Some of them are digitized, some of them are not. There is 2 ways to find oral histories. There's a web page dedicated to the oral history collection that has a long list and has instructions on how to request and how to navigate the oral history collection. But there are also oral history collections that were cataloged in the Archives and Manuscripts Guide. So you can search in both places, and that was just a sort of a change of processes over time. But that is something else that we're working on, trying to get those digitized and organized so that eventually we can get those out on the web, because they can be fantastic sources. We have a map collection too. None of it is available online, but if you go to the page for maps, our map index file is a huge PDF right now. It's not accessible for everyone, so we've had to take it down, but there's a message on the website that just asks you to reach out to us, and we will email you that map index so that you can work with it. The printed ephemera collection is a unique resource that was put together here years ago, and it contains, used to be called the pamphlets collection, but it contains an assortment of ephemeral items. The minutes publication that is pictured here is from the printed ephemera collection. The printed ephemera collection is kind of a hybrid collection. It's mostly a physical collection that you have to visit here to see, but there is an online collection that you can access that has 900 digitized pieces from the printed ephemera collection. I'm blanking on the number, but it's many, many more than 900 that just has index entries for. But if you find something that doesn't have a digital object attached to it in that database, you can reach out to us and we could provide you with a digital or physical copy of it. And it's got programs, it has speeches, it has a lot of pamphlets, it's got some articles and clippings. It was a little bit of kind of like the vertical file or place that when they didn't know what to do with something, that's where they put it over the years. Like I said, what's online doesn't actually cover the entire collection. There's still an old card catalog drawers that you have to use to get a full catalog of it, but a significant portion of it is indexed online. That's something else we can help you with if you're interested. The personal name index is also an older project, but it can be helpful. It's a card catalog organized alphabetically by surname, and there was a list of, I believe, 40 publications that previous staff indexed all the names that were in these books. And so on our website, you can find the list of books, and if you're here on site, or our staff can look through that card catalog for you and see if a person or a surname appeared in any of those publications. The History Center also has subscriptions to different databases, and those you have to be on site to use through our system due to licensing restrictions from the database vendors. But we have Ancestry and Fold3 and a few, and then we also have access to a few historical databases like JSTOR and beyond through the libraries. But that's something that you could access if you were here on site. I put a link here to a research guide that a previous staff person put together that's available on our website that does do a good job of compiling some of our genealogy resources for you. It's not comprehensive, but it does have a lot of good information there. And I think it even includes some materials beyond our collection and links out to other resources. So if you have a chance, I encourage you to check that out. I mentioned photographs last here because photographs, like newspapers, are a bit of a hybrid. We have, like I said, 50,000. I'll talk about that now. Actually, I'm just going to switch slides here. 50,000 plus photographs that are available in our West Virginia History on View online database. And that's full text searchable. You can put in any surname or place name and see what comes up. There's a significant portion of WVU materials in there. Probably the part of our website that gets the most hits is our online photographs database. I'll show that to you after this session. But I wanted to just say that, like, if you don't find something in West Virginia History on View, it could still be in a manuscript collection. The On View database does not represent all of our photographic holdings, so don't stop there if you don't find something. We have a digital collections and exhibits tab, and the photographs collection, is going to be linked there, but we have a lot of other specialized digital collections. The card that is pictured on my screen is from the Clairysville Civil War Hospital collection, which is a set of patient cards from the Civil War Hospital that was in Clairysville, Maryland, which is Western Maryland, close to Cumberland and Frostburg. And it gives you the name of the soldier, where he was from, what they were suffering from, how they were treated, lots of information about soldiers that were in this hospital. So that's just one of many others. We have a Storer College digital collection which I mentioned Storer College earlier, that's all photographs from there. The printed ephemera collection that I mentioned would also be linked on this page. Our political collections have some interesting digital materials there. They may or may not be as applicable for genealogy research, but they're worth checking out. There's some really neat exhibits. We did an online exhibit about the suffrage movement in West Virginia back in 2020. And then more recently, we have an exhibit about the Buffalo Creek flood disaster that's available online and tells the story of that tragic event. So I encourage you to check out that digital collections and exhibits link on our collections page. Newspapers, I wanted to return to that. Like I said, we have the majority of the newspapers are available on microfilm here, but we have been participating in the National Digital Newspaper Project, and we've received, I believe, 6 grants from them. So we have many newspapers available through Chronicling America. You can get on the newspapers page on our website, there's a link to the newspapers that are in person, newspapers that are online. I don't know how familiar you all are with Chronicling America. I think it's pretty well known among historical researchers, but the content that we have on there is all pre-1926. And in many cases, they were looking at the first ones that they did were documenting the Civil War era. So you'll find papers from the 1860s. There are many papers that are still in process, and so that page is going to continue to grow as we work through our 6th grant process, but I think there's even papers from our 5th cycle that still haven't made it up, so that will continue to grow. I also wanted to mention it's listed on our website too, but the Potomac State College, which is part of WVU, their library also has developed a newspaper digitization program. It's the West Virginia Newspapers Portal, and they have digitized, worked with vendors to get newspapers from Eastern Panhandle counties online. I wanted to mention that we do have book content available on the Internet Archive. WVU yearbooks are on the Internet Archive. I think some of the WVU Health Sciences Center or Medical School yearbooks and publications may be available there as well. The West Virginia Department of Mines reports are available through the Internet Archive, as well as WVU catalogs, and then miscellaneous selection of books from our rare book collection, our History of Medicine collection. So there's a variety of West Virginia related materials on the Internet Archive. I did a search, I sort of just searched to see what WVU had contributed, what the libraries here had contributed, and I want to say it was like over 1,700 different volumes. So it's worth to take your time at archive.org. You search on the Monticola WVU yearbook. You can flip through the pages, search on a person's name. That has been such a helpful tool for me in my own research that it's definitely worth something checking out. And then I wanted to give a shout out to the West Virginia State Archives in Charleston. We're up here in Morgantown, and they're down there in Charleston and more the southern part of the state. I consider them to be a sister institution to us. We have many collections that have connections with each other, and so it's always worth looking there for things if we don't have it. I would say that, they're the other largest archive in the state, but they have this really great births, deaths, and marriages database online. I believe that is also indexed through Ancestry, but I generally just go straight to the wvculture.org website and get to this on my own. You may have already used it if you're experienced genealogists, but I definitely want to just give a shout out to the state archives. And there are archives across the state of West Virginia that are smaller, but they also have materials as well. Many of the state colleges and universities do. Glenville State College has archives. Fairmont State has the Folklife Center that has archives. Marshall University has special collections and archives, as well as the Ohio County Public Library up in Wheeling and the Martinsburg Public Library over in Berkeley County. So we're one of the major ones, but there's lots of other ones too, and we're trying actually to develop more connections to the other archival institutions in the state. I've talked a lot about our collections, but I wanted to give you all information about how you can access our materials first. If you can't come to visit us, I just wanted to talk about our remote reference services. So COVID changed a lot of things for everybody, and it definitely changed some of the ways that we worked here at the History Center, and we expanded by necessity what we would do for patrons who couldn't, no one could visit at that time. And then when we did open back up, we just kept these policies in place. If you can't come, but you're interested, say you've searched the Archives and Manuscripts guide and you found a small collection that maybe has a typescript that you're interested in getting a copy of, or if you would like for us to look up a genealogy request, we can take care of those things for you. We'll do about an hour's worth of research and provide around 50 scans at no charge. Our staff is limited though, and so our turnaround time varies. I think our form here says it's 4 weeks. I think we need to update it. I don't think it's always 4 weeks. We may be just giving ourselves a little bit of buffer time there. And back during the COVID era, it literally could take that time because people just couldn't get in the building. So they were only in here briefly, off and on. We will do, about an hour. We don't have staff to do long or in-depth queries, but we do have a external researchers list that we can provide to you that has a list of people that we are familiar with that can do research for hire. They're not affiliated with us or WVU in any way, and lots of times right now I think they're former employees or former researchers or history students. We have a very close relationship with the WVU history department, particularly the public history program, and so we're happy to have this list to share. We just basically give you their contact information with their permission, and then we leave it to you to work any kind of research plan out. So that's between you and them. But for the shorter ones and exploratory ones, we can do those for you for free. To get to this remote reference and research request, this is the page that comes up if you click on the Contact Us link. It also has information. It has our phone number on there. It has information about getting tours or potentially donating archives. We are, like I said, we're always collecting. I would be happy to talk with anyone that thinks they might have something that could be added to the archive. We also have the ability to provide high-res scans of photos or copies of digital materials like our oral histories or folk music collections, things like that. And there is a digital collections request form that is linked in the photographs database as well as on our copies and reproductions page. So we'll work with you at a distance and try to do the best we can to help you. I mean, sometimes we just can't find something, but we really do try. I encourage you to reach out. If you can come and visit us, then I encourage you to check out the visit page on the website. Everyone is required to register. You can do that online now, or you can do that when you come in person. During COVID, we switched to an appointment system. We've never had folks make appointments for using archives before, but it really made sense, and it helped us to just take some control over our public services operations. Appointments are only needed for archives and manuscripts collections, anything that we have to retrieve from our storage area. We encourage the appointments. We can still take walk-ins. We're happy to do that, but we love it when people book an appointment because then we can work with you to find out what you want, have it ready for you. And when you come in to the History Center, you're using your time with the records. You're not spending your time here trying to find out what we have. So we encourage people to make those appointments. You can, sometimes you get started by using the research request form, and you can find out, do you have something, and then go and book an appointment. But that really helps us. But if it turns out you're just in the area and you have an opportunity and you didn't have a chance to book an appointment, by all means, please just come on in and we will help you and accommodate you. Our microfilm and book collections, you don't have to have an appointment to use those. Those are self-serve. You can come on in and we'll help you find what you need. We'll help you use the microfilm machines, but you don't have to book an appointment to use those resources. And again, our staff is here to help you. If you remember anything about my presentation, that is the thing that I want you to remember in the end. And I will just say about our hours and directions, it's always best to check that before you make any plans to come. And it doesn't change a whole lot throughout the year, but it can vary around holidays and different semesters. So it's definitely worth checking that out. That's the end of my formal presentation. And so now I'm, happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So Susan is wondering, do you have vital record county books? She's wondering about Greenbrier and other counties that were once a part of Virginia.
So you're asking, do we have, when you say vital record books for Greenbrier County? Probably not. Those are probably in Greenbrier County or at the State Library of Virginia. I don't know that 100% off of the top of my head, but that is something too that our reference staff can help with you if you put in a reference request. But my instinct tells me, because most of the records that we have aren't births, deaths, and marriage kinds of stuff. We have census records. We have the old school census microfilm, but we mostly access that through databases these days.
Somebody's curious about what might be available at WVRHC that's not available at the State Archives in Charleston.
Well, our archives and manuscripts collections are, like almost all completely different. So there may be a little bit of overlap between them, but like where a stray collection that might have, a copy was given to them and a copy was given to us. But by and large, all of the archival collections are completely different than what they have at the State Archives. Now, the State Archives collects history generally, just like we do, but they specialize in the government records. So all the government records are going to be there versus here primarily. Now, like newspapers, they have a newspaper collection that's very similar. They have a book collection that may or may not be similar. But I would say like any kind of like papers and records, documents, those kinds of things are going to be completely different than what they have at the State Archives.
And somebody's asking about access to online databases, wondering if they have to have a WV account. And I know you said for the licensed databases like Ancestry and those things that you'll have to be there, but for things like the newspapers, will they have to have an account?
No, not at all. To be able to look at the newspapers, the photographs database, or any of the digital collections, those are publicly available to everybody. The only things that require a affiliation would be those licensed databases. And then if you can search the WVU library catalog, like the book search that I was talking about, you don't have to have any kind of account to do that. But to access some of the electronic resources like journal articles and things, if you find them in there, most of those you will only get so far, and then you're going to need to have that affiliation. And that's where the interlibrary loan comes in at your local institution. But for most of the things that I was talking about, you don't need any kind of WVU affiliation.
Somebody else is wondering if you might have land deeds from before 1863.
We have the Sims Index, and we do have a microfilm collection of land deeds, and I believe that they do predate 1863. I'll be honest, I've started here and I did a lot of reference work a lot of my career, and I started with the photographs collection was really one of my first jobs here. But as I have moved into this administrative role, I don't do the hands-on reference like I used to do, so I'm real rusty. So, give me some grace on on my answers on these things. But we do have, I know that there is a microfilm series that has those deeds. And again, I would encourage you to reach out to reference staff if there's something specific that you're looking for.
Cynthia's wondering, is the personal names index searchable online? If using the search box on the main web page, what category would it be under?
Unfortunately, it is not available online, but you can mention it if you put in a reference request and ask, could you search the personal name index for one of my ancestors? Our staff would do it for you, but unfortunately, it's still in a card catalog. It's super old school.
Where would early Hampshire County, Virginia records be, which later became Hardy County, West Virginia?
It's possible that some of them are here, but it's also possible that some of them would be at the Library of Virginia. But, these county court records go back to 1736 for Hampshire. I don't know off the top of my head when Hardy was formed out of it. Again, these are very just generic. They say envelopes, but there are some personal property books. Those get a little bit later. But if you go on our website and you go to the collections page, scroll down to where it says public records, navigate to the county court records page to get the list of what's there. Our reference staff can help look for something specific for you.
Susan is wondering, are maps indexed online, and do you make copies of those?
The map index is not online, unfortunately, because our PDF was not accessible for the e-readers, and it was too big to try to make it into a website. Eventually we'll be folding that map index into the archives and manuscripts search so that it'll all be part of that. But traditionally it was they were managed outside of archives and manuscripts. We will make copies of maps if we can. Something is really, really big, then it could be more difficult. We might have to outsource. It could be more expensive, but we will definitely try. We have an overhead scanner, and so for a medium-sized map, we would be able to make a digital copy.
This person's wondering, do you have separate colonial records in WV counties that used to be in Virginia that are different?
There's no straight answer for that. We do have some, but some of it's here and some of it is at the Library of Virginia. The Library of Virginia also has a fantastic online presence. They have so much digitized.
For our last question for today, Rosalind is wondering about parking at the university. So when coming in person to visit, it's a bit of a challenge when students are in classes. So she's wondering if you have any tips for parking.
She's 100% right that parking is a challenge on our college campus. And when people ask me where they park, I always say, how far can you walk? And because there's no parking lot that's like right next to the library that is available for the public, but there are some public parking lots nearby. The Mountain Lair parking garage offers public parking on its top floor. That can get pretty full when classes are in session. I do recommend coming in the summer. Our hours are a little bit shorter in the summer, but Morgantown's a much calmer place in the summer when the students aren't here. There's 2 public lots that allow you to be there for up to 10 hours just off of Spruce Street and North High Street, not too far, like less than a half mile from the, maybe a quarter mile from the library. We would love someday to be in a facility where people could just drive up and park right in front of us. And, we're working on it. It'll be a few years, but that's definitely what we want. There's also some short-term lots. 2 things, like I said, come in the summer if you can, but also avoid parking in the official WVU lots that are marked as decal only because they will ticket you. They are notorious. So I can tell you the number of times that I have directed somebody in over the phone. Like if someone's coming and they get so far, and just talk to them until they got pulled into their parking space. And so we'll do that for you if you have any trouble finding a place to park here.
Thank you, Lori, very much for presenting, and thank you everyone for attending. Have a good evening.
Thank you all. I enjoyed
Thanks.
it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.